Welcome to another edition of Totally Awesome Fishing Boat Maintenance Tips, where this time we're going to be looking at jockey wheels. Now, the jockey wheel on your boat might be perfectly good, but sooner or later, even if it's not been dunked in the seawater when you're launching and retrieving, it's going to have some form of salt content or mist or corrosion properties in it. And let's face it, a sticking jockey wheel isn't what you want when it's either rolling down or you're trying to pull it back up. You can have problems. So I'm going to take mine off, I'm going to remove the whole thing, have a look at it. I know it needs a bit of grease, and you can see how I've done it. Just gives you a basic idea of a bit of maintenance. Dead easy and worth doing, avoids all those problems later on. I've got a Wilson flyer, and the jockey wheel here is held by two bolts, and these two nuts are the ones that I'm going to get off. First off, I crank it up as far as I can get it, right up to the stop, because I'm going to support here that will enable this to come off. I've already got down this end a secondary block there, which when I lower is going to pinch on that piece of wood. And up here I'm going to put a trestle table, and that should take some weight of the boat, allowing me to take off this fitting. Wind the wheel up, get it off the ground. Now you can already see that down here I've got a good deal of corrosion that's going to need cleaning off as well. The wheel's okay, that's running pretty smoothly, but that's going to want taken off and a bit of grease put in there. And I'll draw the bolts out from this side. So I've got it resting here on the trestle table. Now I've got the Wilson flyer with a hailing trailer obviously. I'm going to spray some good old WD-40 on those nuts so they've never come off at all. And just get a hammer, I'm just going to tap gently. Don't tap here on the threads, you'll burr them over. Just going to tap these, and that'll help shock the oil. Just bump them, it should crack any slight corrosion there might be in there. Just like that. Give them a good old douching of WD-40, let it set, a few taps, loosen it up, and then try and get off with a spanner. Make sure you get the right size spanner. I've got a nice ring spanner, and just give it a tap at the base. There we go, that's on the move. That's that WD-40's freed it off. And away we go. Now that can come off now because it's supported. When I drop down here, that just slacken them, and then just wind the wheel, take the weight off of there. I've got it on the chock back there anyway, so that's taken all the weight on that chock there, and I've got this as the backup. Now here's what I mean. I don't know if you're going to see this. You think it's all good. Look at the corrosion in there. It's galvanised bolts, so it's okay anyway to clean up. But that shows you, even though this hasn't gone underwater, look at the corrosion on that bolt there. Always put the washers back on. It's got a little nylock pinching point there, so that shows you that even inside there's a little bit of rust going on that you don't know about. So just as well I looked at this. Let's get the other one off, get it in the workshop. There we go. Now you can see it, you can see the muck of gunk and up there, all the way up here. And I'll tell you what, if I get this grease over this lovely yellow sweatshirt, my wife is going to murder me. Right, immediately problem number one, not the corrosion here, the corrosion that's up inside this jockey wheel. This just rotates right out. If you want to take it right out, we'll clean that in a minute. Leave that for now, but you should be able to unscrew this like a what I think called a worm screw. But look, I am absolutely having big trouble getting this to unscrew. So what I would suggest doing, taking out the vise, as I've got it here, and give it a generous helping of liquid lunch in the shape of a good old dose of WD-40. At least that can run down. Hopefully that will work its way down in there, right down the bottom. Now you can sort of walk away, go make a cup of tea or something like that. Don't expect it to work straight away, because I can feel how tight that is. I'm going to leave that just resting there. Give it 5 minutes to trickle right down to the screws, and I'm fairly confident that that's going to unscrew. But you can see the problems inside. I can only wind that where I've obviously wound it up and down on a setting, as it were. Should I need it any higher, different height tow hitch or anything like that, but the worm screw is jammed up, it won't come up anymore. So fingers crossed, we'll give that 5 minutes and come back to what they call, here's one we prepared earlier. Right, we've now got it all freed up. Taking a bit of unscrewing, and it is now out. But as you can see, it's got plenty of rust in there. You can now undo this this locking plate here. That slides right off like that, so you can check that out. You've got the inside of this, which is absolutely rusted, and I'm not surprised because I haven't looked in there for 3 years. How seawater got up in there, I don't know. Obviously a lot of this gunk here is from a mixture of WD-40 breaking down the old grease, but there's quite a bit of rust in there, so this definitely does need freeing off. Now I find with this gunk that's already up the shaft here, I would spray it with WD-40, soften it all up, work your way down, use a brush, fingers. You can always use a scrubber like this one, just to, yeah, that's better, just scrub it and loosen it all off. Then I can re-grease it, and I can also run up and down it, re-grease it and run up and down it with a little wire brush in a moment. And the same for the internal shaft. That's going to have a good soaking as well. Now you can take that screw out down in the middle there, the bolt, by drilling out this pin here. I'm not going to do that. I could do it proud on one side, and I've actually tapped that home slightly. I didn't want it coming out. But you can actually take that pin out there, and you can take the whole gubbins to pieces, but I can get a piece of cloth up there and get the surplus out. Now, after that's all been softened, look at this. Just get a rag and a piece of screwdriver. As I say, you can dismantle the whole thing if you want to drill that pin out, but I'm not going to bother with that. I'm going to get it all softened up here first, around that thread and around the edge, screwdriver edge, and this really, now look, I mean, sad, isn't it? I haven't taken that to bits for 3 years, and that's the price you pay. But it's clean, and you can see how that shaft has been softened with a WD-40, and in fact the galvanising on that is still pretty good. I'm going to give it a coat of grease anyway, and internally I'm going to whack it full of grease as well. Now the other point you need to look for is, if I just undo that, clean the shaft up here. Now there's a pinch point around the top there. I'm going to clean that out there. I'm going to wire brush that off there. Some quite pitted bit marks there. And this side, you can see they've got, the wheel actually is pretty good. Look, the ridges are still there. That's still pretty good. But I'm going to grease it, take it out and grease it anyway. Split pin there I'm going to undo. And the other side, there's a little flange that just locks around there. You can just see the locking bit there. I don't know, you can see that in the light there, just there. So just take those off. Get a pair of pliers, pop that off, and we'll have a look at the inside of that one. Now you might actually find that split pin, I've bent it back, squeezed it here. When you get that split pin, I'm just going to tap it out. I should use a little hammer. If it comes out pretty clean, which this one does, and it's not showing a great deal of corrosion because it's stainless, you just straighten it and you can use it again. It's not what I would call a structural split pin. I mean, it holds a jockey wheel in position and that's about it. So let's make sure we don't lose that. Take out that pin there, centre pin. Yeah, that needs a bit of rubbing and greasing. And the wheel could probably do with a clean up again. Give it a douche of good old WD-40. Basically just softens it up, softens that old grease up for what it costs. And it helps clean. It makes it a lot easier for cleaning, scrubbing up, and then you can wire brush off and re-grease. Okay, I've got that centre pin out. I've got the grease off it. I'm going to wire brush it, clean it up a bit. It just knocks off all the little imperfections. Take it around the edge. Always wear glasses when you do this, just in case a bit pings off. It's not likely to ping off of this, it's likely to ping off of the wheel. Especially if you buy cheap ones like I did. There, you can see that one now. Turn it over, just pinch it about midway. Buff it up. I'm not going to say good as new, but you'll see There's not a lot wrong with that one. Just clean the wheel up, because there's basically nothing wrong with the galvanising on this one. You work your way all around it. And there, you can see that's nice and clean. Look at the state of that side. So I'm going to do this side, and then that's pretty well ready for greasing as well. Now get those bolts, put them in there. You can see where it's all corroded, and we're going to clean those up with a wire brush as well. And the bad news is, you can see the state of my hands. I've already got grease on the lovely yellow jumper. Now quite a bit of that corrosion was actually right along the top, up the top end here. So you'll find if you use a wire brush, you can knock a lot of this off. I suggest wearing a mask and eye protection, and probably clean underpants as well. Why not just dismantle that one? You've got the wire brush here working. Just pop it out like that. You can see where it locks around the shaft. Just give it a good clean up around there while you've got it out with the wire brush. For what it takes, minutes is worth it. Just knocks any specks of rust off. And of course, make sure you do the thread as well, because we're going to re-grease this in a minute and send it back home all nice and clean. Unlike this yellow shirt. Right, down the centre here, I'm going to get some of this grease that I use on the bearings. I'm going to gob it right down the thread. So I want it to go right down. I get my palm on my hand here and I push it down, because the air can come out the other end. So I can force down a good whack of grease down that centre core across the thread. Bang, it bursts down. And then when I re-screw it, it's going to push that grease right down the centre of that shaft. So we're nearly done. Wire brushed off, covered in gunk. Let's just check out, run through everything you've got, make sure you've greased everything before you put it back together. Well, there you go, all the parts are all clean, they've all been greased, every single piece of grease there. What you've got to do now, put it all together in the right order, hopefully. Even these pins I've re-greased. And there you go, one fully serviced, whistlingly smooth. Oh, it's absolutely purring, that wheel, with all that grease in there. Of course I'm covered in grease as well. It's all ready, let's get out there, put it on, away we go. And you know what the next thing is we do? That's right, we go fishing.